Maryland football needs to change everything after the horrific loss to Northwestern.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day, and also video content creator on InsideBlackandGold.net. Make sure you guys go to Inside Black and Gold for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Maryland has to make a lot of changes, and I think has to change just about everything after the loss to Northwestern. That was one of the worst losses I've ever seen a Maryland team have, and I think the worst loss I saw under Coach Locksley and the Coach Locksley era. What I just watched was absolutely unacceptable on Friday night. I had a good feeling going into the game. I felt good about how we matched up against Northwestern. I thought this was a game that we could get things done, a game where Maryland could look good, a game where we get back into the winning column, a game where we win in the Big Ten, a game where we redeem ourselves from being really bad in a lot of spots this year. But losing 37-10 to Northwestern at home is absolutely unacceptable, and it's the most outlandish, crazy thing you could have told me before the season. I would have said no. There's no shot we lose to Northwestern 37-10. But this just proves that it's not like one or two things that need to be changed. It's not just some small, minor type of things. That's not what it is. You got to change just about everything you do, how you go about things, how you look at things. After losing by 27 to Northwestern at home, you got to change just about everything you do. I think they got to change a lot of different things, whether it's personnel, the way you watch film, something on the coaching staff. I don't know. But 37-10 to Northwestern is something that seems insane to me. Just seems like you're doing a lot of things the wrong way. I think there's no other way to say that. A game where we were 10-point favorites. 10-point favorites. So what does that mean? Because I like Vegas. I think they know what they're doing when it comes to making lines, when it comes to all that betting stuff. And I think it gives you a really good kind of representation of kind of how you performed, if you performed well, based on how the spread is, based on those different things. Like, you can play and lose, but if you lose within 7 to Ohio State, but you're supposed to lose by 30, then I think you have a good kind of visual. And I think the line gives you kind of a good representation when we don't really know exactly how the game is supposed to play out. And so the line was at 10, and the Terps lost by 27. We were 10-point favorites at home. And so that tells me you're doing a lot of things wrong, because that Northwestern team isn't that great. They're not that good. They're not that great on paper. They're not that good on the field. They're not more talented than the Maryland Terrapins. They just aren't. When you really get into their team, when you really get into what they have, they're not an amazing team overall. And to me, it starts up top with Coach Locksley. What he has done this year as a coach just hasn't gotten the job done. And I'm not saying that we need to consider a change at the coaching staff in terms of our head coach, because what he's done the last 3 years, but I think you got to change just about everything else. I don't know if Coach Gaddis right now is getting it done. I don't think Coach Williams, our defense coordinator, is getting it done. And they got to make changes to the game plan. Feels like we're just sitting back doing the same exact thing over and over again, just hoping that we come away with a different result. But what you bring after a bye week, after you have an extra week to prepare for a team that just came off a short week, they played on Saturday. They had to turn around and get ready on a short week and play on Friday again. That's why I thought we had the advantage. But what we do after the bye week has to change. And I thought Coach Locksley would be better. I thought he would change some things up. I thought he would do some things differently after the bye week. It didn't really seem like it. I can't speak for what goes on inside that building. I can't speak for what actually happens. But what just happened in terms of on the field after a bye week, and I know Coach Locksley's horrible after a bye week, but you would think that we put up a better performance than that. I was thinking maybe at the worst, Northwestern wins the game, but it's a close game. We got blown out by probably the worst team in the Big Ten. Probably the worst team in the Big Ten. And there was just no rhythm to our game plan. The players look lost. The players look like they don't know what they're doing. They're clearly not putting themselves in position to win the games. We're just doing everything, it seems like, the wrong way. We're turning over the ball now. Special teams doesn't look good. We missed a kick. We missed a field goal. We fumbled a return. I was like, this is a game where it seems like everything goes wrong. And that's basically what happened. When you lose by 27 to Northwestern at home, everything probably went wrong. And that's what happened. And that's why I think there's got to be some types of changes. I don't know if Coach Locksley needs to make a firing on the staff. Obviously, you never want to see someone get fired, but as a person that watches and covers, I'm like, you can't just let this thing go on forever. And the thing, there's a weird kind of fine line with it, is because we have been building this program in a really good spot the last couple of years. It has continuously progressed. It's continuously gotten better, and that's with Coach Gaddis and Coach Williams and Coach Locksley and a lot of the same guys on the staff. But at the same time, you got to say, you can't play like this anymore. Something's got to be different. I don't know if we got to change the way we prepare. I don't know if we need to change some of the personnel. I'm not saying a quarterback switch needs to happen, because I don't really think the problem lies with Billy Edwards, but I think something needs to change, and it feels like everything needs to change right now. Our scheme offensively, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, and Coach Locksley calling plays, looked horrendous. It looked bad. Looked like no rhythm, like nothing was going on. Our defense, not that great. Turning over the ball, not good. There wasn't a single part of the team where I was like, yeah, that doesn't need some minor changes, or yeah, we don't need to do something differently there. Everything looked bad. Everything looked bad. And I just don't think that what we're doing right now is getting it done. And the crazy part about it is that was our best chance to get a win for the rest of the year. Not just like a Big Ten win, to straight up get a win. The rest of the games we play are Big Ten games. That was our best chance to win. And I don't know if you guys caught some of the games this weekend, but looking ahead to USC a little bit, USC lost a bad one to Penn State, a game that arguably USC should have won. I think a lot of people would say that. So you're not getting USC in a spot where it's like, oh, they just beat Penn State. This might be an upset spot. Don't know if you guys checked out the Oregon-Ohio State game, but Oregon looks really good. Penn State, they're number 3 in the nation now. We play all those teams. And so if we don't make a ton of changes and change just about everything from scheme to some personnel stuff to maybe a coaching firing, you're going to get absolutely ran through. And there's no ifs or buts around it. USC will run through us if we pick up the same game plan we did against Northwestern. Maybe we make one change or two. No, you got to change just about everything. If you go into that USC game at home, USC will blast us. Minnesota next week, in 2 weeks, maybe our next best chance to get a win. They will beat us on the road. So if things don't change quick, if Maryland doesn't make major changes quick, and a lot of them, we're going to look at the season and it is going to quickly be a throwaway. Not saying that it is not almost gotten there yet, but it's going to be completely a throwaway. And we're going to be looking at the record, and then, it's always a ripple effect. You start losing games, you start losing recruits, and it's harder the next year, and you can't get back on track. And eventually your program just starts sliding downhill. plus a bowl game this year, that is looking farther, and farther away. So I think there's so many different things that we have to change. And it seems like we got to change just about everything, from something on the coaching staff to scheme to motivation to whatever it is. You got to change just about everything after losing by 27 points to Northwestern at home after the bye week. That is pretty horrific. I think that Coach Locksley calling plays this weekend looked really bad, and the offense looked really bad. I'll talk about the offense and what my thoughts were after this ad from the LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you should check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new role but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of the LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like professionals on LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's get into the offense. Gosh, they were bad on Saturday. We were only able to, or on Friday. I keep wanting to say Saturday because of the normally just playing on the Saturday. But gosh, we were bad on Friday. Let me correct that before I'm sure you guys will for me. But I feel like I have so many different things to say about the offense. I was thinking, let me start here. I was thinking Coach Locksley taking over the play calling duty. Oh, we're in for some better things. We're in for more Billy Edwards rushing attempts. We're in for a more balanced attack. We're in for a really solid offensive game plan, really solid play calling. If he's taking it over, he feels confident that he can do things the right way and at a high level. That was wrong. That was really wrong. And you could argue that Gaddis should be the ones calling plays after what I saw from Coach Locksley calling plays on Saturday or Friday. I keep saying Saturday. But to start with Billy Edwards, was he horrific? Was he terrible? No. Was he good? No. Was he okay? I say he's in between bad and okay, which isn't good enough for sure. Just wasn't good enough performance from Billy Edwards. He had the pick, and then 28 of 51. That's my thing. We're throwing the ball 51 times a game. That's not how you win with Edwards. And I can't even be that mad at the kid because he gets no support. He did throw for 296 yards, so he did get some of that going, some passing yards. But we're throwing the ball 51 times a game. I hope we can throw for 300 yards. And I know some of it's the game script and the game flow of the game, and the fact that we're down the entire game. We dropped 17-0, so it's like we have no other way but to throw it. You can't run the ball at that point. But to start the game, put him in a better position. He's not a cat we want throwing 51 times. And I know early season we were able to get away with it a little bit, but that's why I said it was a little bit of fool's gold. He was playing well as a passer, and I'm not saying this was on him, but it's like Mike Locksley, Coach Gaddis. If we throw the ball 51 times a game, we're not going to win. I don't care if we're down by 17 early on. I don't really care. Like, we're not going to win the game like that. And we got to do a better job of keeping it closer early so we don't feel the pressure to have to throw the ball in every single down. But the thing is, I can't even be like, let's run the ball because the running game is awful as well. Hemby and Nolan Ray couldn't get anything going. 14 carries for Rowan Hemby for 42 yards with a 3.0 average. Nolan Ray, 5 carries, 12 yards, 2.4 average. Couldn't get anything going on the ground. To me, a big part of that's the offensive line. these running backs are talented enough. If you give them enough holes, I feel like they would get things going. And so I feel like I got to blame this offensive line, who was horrible on Friday, by the way. They were absolutely dominated by Northwestern's front. They sucked. I don't have another word, but they sucked on Friday. They got absolutely dominated, and that's another part of it that's not helping Billy Edwards out. And Coach Locksley has to figure out a balance between this, is that and has to be able to I don't know what has to happen to offensive line, but we got to figure out a way for it to be better, because what Maryland's currently doing on the line, it's just so far from getting it done, so far from good enough. We can't run block and we can't pass protect. So it's like, how are we going to run offense? How's Billy Edwards going to be successful? We don't have a running game for him. They don't even have to really respect it. It's easy to stop our running game right now. You don't even have to load up the box. I feel like you can just put guys up there and they're going to plug up the holes, because our offensive line doesn't create any push, doesn't create any type of lanes for running backs. So it's like, what do you want to do? And then pass protecting, Billy Edwards doesn't have time against Northwestern. We're not playing Georgia. We're not playing Penn State yet. Imagine what happens when we play like a Penn State, a team that has a really good defensive line and really good guys up front. Is it going to look like a middle school football team versus a college team? I don't know. But the offensive line is horrible right now. And I can't even say, like, Coach Locksley, like, you called a terrible game, but your offensive line was terrible. Like, yeah, I put a lot of blame on Locksley in the play calling, but it's also like, if the offensive line can't block, there's not much any play caller can do. And I think any offensive coordinator would tell you that. If your line can't block, if you can't figure it out up there, which is partly Coach Locksley's fault. I don't know if you consider a switch in personnel. Do we need to play some of these younger guys up front? Do we just say, whatever, they might not be that good, but they can't be a whole lot worse than what we've seen? Play some of these young guys, Therese Davis, Ryan Howerton, some of those guys up front that are young freshmen. And you never really want to do that in the Big Ten. You don't want to play those guys up front and make them look bad. But it's like, I don't know what else to do. It's like Andre Roy hasn't looked good, even though he was supposed to be good. Coach Locksley said before the season, but he's been pretty bad. And the entire line has been pretty bad. And so can't run block, can't pass block. I do have to say this. Coach Locksley did call a lot more Billy Edwards runs. It says 14 carries on the stat sheet, which I did feel good about, which I did like a lot. And I said that would allow us to open things up. But if your offensive line can't block at all for those run games, it's not going to do much. And it clearly wasn't effective. So I guess I was wrong on that. But things got to change. I don't know how you kind of balance the play calling out. I thought Caden and Ty, like, they played good ball in terms of the yardage, and Preston Howard as well. And I thought Octavian Smith had a solid game. But it's like, a receiver core is pretty good at the end of the day. But it's like, that doesn't matter if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw. That doesn't matter if your run game doesn't do anything. So the offense, I don't really know where to go from here. I think you got to figure it out on the line. Try a different combination. Try something different. Coach Locksley has to do that. But Coach Locksley's play calling has to be better. We got to figure out a way to get these passing attempts down. Teams that are most effective in the Big Ten, they don't throw the ball 50 times a game. Michigan last year winning the national championship. They're going to run the ball a lot. And I know their offensive line is a lot better than ours is right now, but you got to figure out a way to balance it out a little bit. You got to get the run game going some. The secondary, man, I think that could be our biggest problem. We'll talk about that after this ad from the Gametime app. Have you ever wanted to go to a game at the last minute like a Maryland Terrapins game, but finding tickets is hard? I've been there before. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Gametime has deals on tickets right at the start of an event and even an hour after it starts. It's a place to find last-minute seats and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCULTURE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCULTURE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. the secondary is just so bad. It is tough to watch, and I think that's the part of our defense that is absolutely killing us. Because believe it or not, outside of those guys in that corner room in that secondary, I thought our defense was actually all right. I thought that our linebacker room played fine. Our defensive line unit wasn't bad, to be honest. I watched the game and I'm like, they're not playing really bad. Um, they did fine on the rushing game. Northwestern only had 85 rushing yards, which has been a pretty strong part of their defense. I thought their quarterback rushing was kind of annoying, but I thought overall, just in terms of the running the ball, I thought Maryland did a good job of somewhat putting a stop to it. And I thought the linebacker room continues to be impressive to me. I saw Neo Avery did some good things in the game. Wyatt had a sack and 2 tackles for loss. Ruben Hippolyte played decent with a tackle for loss in the pass breakup. Like the guys in that room, I honestly don't think they've looked bad. The defensive line, I thought, did some good things. Like I said, Kellen Wyatt had a sack. Caleb Wheatland's listed with the sack on the stat sheet. I thought that they didn't do a bad job. But at the end of the day, if guys get open right away, not sure that it matters. And I saw Northwestern, guys were open. It's not like they threw for a ton of yards. They threw for 203, but part of that was the game script, and they didn't have to. They could start relying, they started to just rush the ball a little bit because they were like, we're up 17-0. We're not going to throw the ball a lot. That hasn't been our strength this year. We're just going to kind of rush the ball, play defense, and feel good about it. But the kid Bryce Kurtz had way too many big plays. We're even at way too many big plays in the secondary. It's been the worst part of our team the whole year, and I was concerned about it before the season, and I said the secondary is going to be boom or bust, and I fear I was kind of right. I was like, Perry Fisher, Jalen Husky, those guys might look really good. We have some young players that could also look really talented, or it could be absolute bust where it's like, oh, where it is now. I don't even have to say what it's like. What it is now, where we can't stop anything. Our defensive line doesn't have a chance to get pressure because guys are open right away. We're giving up big plays. It seems like nothing we could do in the secondary. Dante was out, but this isn't my thing. It's not like a safety, as much as a safety problem as it feels like a corner problem. But Dante being out didn't help at all. I know that. Having him back is going to be big. We're going to need him in the back end, and clearly he's really important in the back end. But they had a lot of completions over 40 yards that would just give them big sparks. And when you win the big play battle like that, which they absolutely did, then it's hard to win. And I think we could learn a little bit from what Northwestern secondary did, because look at what Ty Felton and Caden Prather had on the stat sheet. Caden Prather, 8 receptions, but for 81 yards. Ty Felton, maybe the best receiver in the country right now, 9 receptions, 77 yards. We could learn a little bit from that and say, okay, they're good players on the outside for them, sure. I don't even want to really say that about Northwestern. I don't think they have awesome talent on the outside, but sure, let's say that we can't really match up. We got to play some soft stuff. We can't give up big plays. They might have a guy that has 9 receptions for 77 yards, but we're not about to let a guy have 3 receptions for 123 yards and average 41 per reception like Bryce Kurtz did us. So I think we could learn something from what Northwestern's game plan is. Give up some underneath stuff to Ty Felton, give up some underneath stuff to Caden Prather, and make tackles, and don't give up the big play. I think we could learn some of that, but our secondary is bad, and I don't think there's a single guy that I feel good about out there in that corner room. I really don't. I don't feel good about a single guy out there. I thought Jalen Husky played pretty bad. I thought pretty much everyone in that room I don't feel good about. At times, there has been a time where I thought we had some talent in there. And I'm not saying we don't have talent, but the scheme and the talent aren't matching clearly, or we wouldn't be getting absolutely dominated like this against a Northwestern team that I was told, and I was reading and I was looking at the stats, hasn't been that good at passing the ball. And they've been pretty horrible. And they were able to create big plays down the field, which is just doesn't make sense to me at all. and I think you got to maybe bench a lot of guys in that secondary. I might just turn to the young guys and say, if it looks bad, it looks bad. I'm almost there with it. And that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football, and hopefully we talk some basketball soon because this football thing, it hurts. But thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.